Hey guys, welcome back again to Ken Tamplin Vocal Academy, where the proof is in the singing. I'm continuing my series on how to sing like. Next up is legendary Janis Joplin. Before we get started, if you wouldn't mind, please like and subscribe to my channel. That'd be super cool. Don't forget to ring that bell so I can keep new videos coming your way. And I have a singing course, man. It's called How to Sing Better Than Anyone Else. And I cover all these different styles and techniques and range and tone and distortion and pitch and all this stuff. I covered in my singing course. You can find it right here at kentamplinvocalacademy.com, where the proof is in the singing. Speaking of proof in the singing, we're going to take on Janis, and Janis is maybe one of the greatest, most legendary female rock vocalists of all time. And I did I used two of my students to do some of the demonstrations, Alyona and Kati. But before we do this, I want to say that they have two very different voices. Alyona and Kati are very different kinds of singers, and I want to point out how we were able to get to Janis's sound with two very unique voices. So without further ado, I'm just going to dive right in. We'll talk about it along the way and discuss some of the technique and soul involved in doing this. Here we go.
Well, come on, come on, come on, come on. Didn't I make you feel like you were the only man?
Okay, now, right out of the gate, we're come on, come on, come on, right? That is more true to the Janis Joplin sound. It's not a safe sound, it's just more true to Janis's sound. So we opted to go that direction in this version. In Kati's version, we opted to open up the sound to keep it a little safer because actually at this point, Alyona had more experience under her belt and could manipulate and shift and close down or narrow down a sound safely and then reopen up the sound. Now, Janis at the time, there were very few singers that were singing with a belting, wailing, distorted sound. So Janis got the benefit of sort of being the flagship person to, get the credit for that sound. But let's remember Etta James was doing that, and there were other, people back in the day that also introduced this sound. Not just Janis. Etta was a little more on the soul R&B side. Janis more on the Aryan side, not so much soul R&B, but more on the rock sound. So I bring that up because Janis got credit. Now, I have to say this because it needs to be said. I know Janis was awesome. I'm not trying to take away anything from Janis. Do I think Janis was the quintessential epitome of being the greatest female rock vocalist that's ever lived? No, I don't believe that. I don't know how many people would actually really believe that. It's a lot like Jimi Hendrix. Was Jimi Hendrix the greatest guitar player that ever lived? No, but he pioneered a sound. A lot of other people came along later and did his sound maybe even better than him, but he was the first to do it, so we give them credit for that. So in the wake of this, we're not looking to sound exactly like Janis. We're going to pick off some of the cool things she did. We're going to talk about her soul, and we're going to reminisce on that and enjoy it. And I bring this up because, again, I hear so many people, there's nobody better than Janis. I don't know. I actually like Susan Tedeschi's voice a little better, or Bonnie Raitt, or some other people that have a lot of soul and blues to their sound with a lot of distortion too. Check out, Susan Tedeschi, or Tedeschi, however you want to say her name. Songs like "Rock Me Right," or I think she's got a lot of great stuff. But as a blues soul rock singer, she's got a lot of Janis, but has taken that to another level, just like other people did with Jimi Hendrix. So I'm going to continue here, and I didn't mean to babble on that, but so I want to point this out. And then also her distortion. Come on, she's real throaty and real pinch and squeeze throaty on the sound. So that sound doesn't last very long. So we have to, again, learn to build good open throat technique. And you're going to see a difference between Alyona and Kati as we go through this. I'll talk more about it as we go. Here we go.
Yeah, I did not give you nearly everything that a woman possibly can. Honey, I did. Next time I tell myself that when I think I've had enough, that I'm gonna show you, baby, that a woman can be tough. I want you to come on, come on, come on, come on, and take it. Take another little piece of my heart now, baby. Break it. Break another little bit of my heart, oh, no, yeah, 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 yeah.
All right. So if you notice, Alyona's using a lot in it. Take another little piece of my heart now, baby. She's bringing a lot in it, and then on, right? So she's bringing a lot of nasality into the sound. Now, on some songs like, what's another Janis tune? In fact, before I go there, I want to talk about some more technique stuff on this first. When she's done singing heavy, she comes kind of like storyline and she goes, didn't I make you feel like you were the only man? Honey, I did. She's very storyline on. She's again telling the story, right? And so she comes back and she kind of only has 2 gears for her voice. All on or gear 1 and gear 2, right? A low gear and a high gear. So she goes back and there's this ebb and flow back and forth between the gears. Now, again, if you take a song like Bobby McGee, na 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 baby, Bobby McGee, right? She's kind of just full throttle all the time. So there's kind of 2 dimensions to her voice and there's not a lot in between. Whereas Etta, at the same time, Etta would, come along, right? She had kind of more of a soul jazzy side to her sound where she would incorporate that same real pinched nasally frontal distorted sound as Janis did. They're very, very similar co-contemporaries in that same kind of sound. It's a lot of reason that, I think people like Christina Aguilera claim that, that Etta was a big influence for her in her sound and her distorted sound. So 2 different walks of life, but kind of coming to the same conclusions with their sound. So let's continue.
Have another little piece of my heart now, baby.
See all the air? Have another piece of my heart. A lot of air.
You got it. If that makes you feel good, oh yes indeed.
Now, Alyona is more true. Alyona did a better job matching her sound, Janis's sound. So kudos to Ali for doing that, like I said. But again, that sound Ali was a little more mature in knowing how to get in and out and sing in a lot of different styles than when I did it with Kati. Kati was pretty new in doing this, so we just kind of stayed safer in the sound, and I'll talk about that when I get to Kati's part.
You're out on the street looking good. Baby, deep down in your heart, I guess you know that they're right.
One of the other things, she did really fast stabbing phrasing. Me and my Bobby McGee, right? She had a real fast phrase thing. So it was, it could have been kind of drug induced a little bit, maybe, because some of it seemed really hyper and really spazzy. And again, we see that with a lot, whether it's, Riders on the Storm, or see people go the opposite direction with, the drug, that whole psychedelic drug movement. She had kind of more the hyper spazzy kind of side. And unfortunately, we lost her early as a result of that, as everyone knows. So.
Never hear me when I cry at night. Baby, I cry all the time. Each time I tell myself that, well, I can stand the pain. And when you hold me in your arms, I sing it once again. I say, come on, come on, come on, come on, and take it. Take another little piece of my heart now, baby.
All right, so you get it, right? Take another little piece of my heart now, baby. You know you got it. If it makes you feel good. With that same kind of distorted sound. I also did a version of this with my student Ziomara Crystal. I'm not going to put that up here because I'm going to just dive into Kati's version. I'll try to dig around and find that, see if I can put that in the description or the link in the description so you can check out how she did too. She was even less far along in this kind of sound than Kati was. But let's dive into Kati's version. Now check this out.
Oh, come on, come on, come on, come on. Didn't I make you feel like you want the only man?
Okay, so right out the gate, Kati's version is more like a rock check. right? So she's got much more of the open throat thing, but it's not as authentic in the sound. It's cool. It's really cool. And she did an awesome job. It's not as close to the sound as we did with Alyona. And we worked quite a bit. Alyona and I went back and forth quite a bit on matching all the different vocal tones. And also she's Russian too. So we had to work out a lot of language things to get it to sound like more like in English, which is a challenge because Katie's also German or, Austrian German. So we have to work out a lot of stuff like Gabriella from the Czech Republic. There's a lot of things we have to clean up the language to make it, to legitimize it to sound like the original artist. So.
Yeah, didn't I give you nearly everything that a woman possibly can? How do you know I did? And each time I tell myself that I think I've had enough. But I'm gonna show you, baby, that a woman can be tough. I want you to come on, come on, come on, come on and take another little piece of my heart now, baby.
You got here, taking another little piece of my heart. You can hear that, the German coming out of there. Again, I shouldn't make fun of that because she did such a great job. But before, you probably wouldn't have even detected it had I not said that. But Katie is learning and has learned and is getting really good at good distorted open throat techniques. So a lot like Alyona, a lot like Sarah, a lot like Gabriella, a lot like all my, Ziamara, all these different female, especially female vocalists, since we're talking about females right now. They have learned what I show in my course, how to get good big open throat distortion first, but then always come back and clean up the sound so that they don't forever sentence themselves to singing in a distorted tone, and they can sing Whitney Houston 1 minute and sing Janis the next. So if you like what you heard, again, please like and subscribe. I'm doing most of this by request, and check out my next video.